he interviewed the CEO a while back.
Yeah.
And he basically was saying, like, I asked him straight, I said, like, are you profitable? And if you're not, do you think you could be if you wanted to? As in, if you weren't trying to grow. And he didn't really answer that part of the question, and he just basically said, no, we're not right now, and here's why. So, like, it doesn't say, and that, but to be fair, that interview was, I probably interviewed him like a year and a half ago, but they weren't profitable then. And now, obviously, they've taken another big hit with this.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, they still managed to actually play the whole thing as a positive, even when like their deck came out and some of their financials came out, they played it, didn't they? Because they were effectively saying, like, we're going to be the first $1 billion organization. Even though that part, and it was always approximately or estimated, it was never actually revealed what that figure was, as far as I'm aware. So I don't know, like, how can you round that up? Could it be 950?
Yeah.
I guess 950 million above, but how the fuck they're valued at $1 billion?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
That was the valuation when they had first planned the SPAC.
Yes,
that the valuation was $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's mental.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna get cancelled for saying SPAC. I don't know. It's just it's too close to like dodgy words, you know.
Do you reckon it's worth explaining what a SPAC is?
If you would like to do, honestly, this sounds so dodgy to me, man. Honestly, I'm nervous. I'm like, this is the one we get cancelled. I can say it's special purpose acquisition company. It's a company that's already public, that's set up to then IPO and then use that IPO money to acquire a company and take that public. Right. So instead of just FaZe Clan going public by itself, it enters like an acquisition agreement with B. Riley, which is the company that's planning to do so, and which is essentially like a shell company. So there's nothing actually going on at that company, and they're currently live on the NASDAQ, like they're public already. And so the plan is to just FaZe. The easiest way to think about it in my head is like FaZe fills this shell that's already on the NASDAQ. So then all of a sudden FaZe is public. So that's what a SPAC is, basically. I guess you get to skip out a bit of the regulatory aspect of going public as well. Yeah, if I remember correctly, but I'm not an expert on SPACs. But mate, this sounds I'm getting cancelled this fucking episode.
Do you reckon that what you're like trying to avoid is something that's said in the US as well? I think that's a very UK. I think that's probably a very British thing.
The way we say it, yeah, for sure, English. I say we say it. I haven't said it since I was probably 13.
Yeah, I was going to say this is definitely a good thing, but I've not heard that word in decades.
I was a little fiend. I was just saying all the wrong stuff. Like, if 13-year-old me was on Twitter, cancelled instantly. I went and worked in a special needs school for work experience, and I ended up actually working there alongside like being in college and stuff. So like, I'm the most sensitive person on anything, and I haven't heard that word in a long time. And I actually had to cut out a few friends who would use words that were not necessarily appropriate. I actually had to cut them out around that time, which was a madness. Like 17-year-old me had principles and morals and stuff. It was a madness.
Nothing less.
That's growth. That's growth. But so you mentioned it's a shell company, right? Effectively. And it's interesting because FaZe is also basically a shell of a company. With not much actually going on in terms of financials, and that is my famed segue, which everyone hates, by the way. Whenever I do like a shit intro or a segue or something, they hate it with a passion. So I've got to keep delivering.
They do, yeah. You've got to. I've seen you get some smoke on Twitter for that from one or two people.
Yeah, so it's mostly private smoke as well. Yeah, unfortunately, I prefer it to be public. To be fair, like I can play that off. But no, so effectively, the latest news with FaZe is that the money they projected to have gotten did not materialize. And we got a bit more information in terms of their financials. So for year ending December 31st, 2021, they brought in almost 53 million in revenue and made a net loss on that of almost 37 million with an adjusted EBITDA, so earnings before interest, fucking blah, 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 of 28.7 mil. So basically they're losing a lot of money. They projected that they'd be doing better when they entered this agreement with B. Riley, the shell company. And now it's come out that they're not doing as good. But also, I think it was actually stipulated at the time of the merger announcement and the agreement that I guess the forecasting wasn't necessarily like impenetrable. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
done for the purpose of the merger, right? It
exactly.
was
Yeah.
just that was there internally at the company, and they were using that. So it looked like
Mm.
projections and forecasting can go wrong, but to the
Mm.
tune of almost like 10 mil is a bit of a
Yeah, and I read something before, mate, that apparently the SEC in America, which is what the Securities and Exchange Commission, which basically looks after markets and stuff, like regulates markets, I think, um,
Mhm.
they basically came out with a new rule very recently that they essentially clamped down a little bit on valuations as far as SPACs are concerned. So what FaZe had planned to merge with this holding company, um, they clamped down, I think very recently, like within the last month or two, where essentially so the companies couldn't inflate the predictions too much or as much as they had been doing. Apparently, I think this might have
Right.
been a problem for like a few years of companies just inflating kind of valuations or whatever. Um, and so they've cracked down a little bit on that, and it seems like FaZe has maybe just gotten really unlucky, like with the timing before they could actually merge. Like they did, like you said, they didn't. Their projection wasn't according to. It wasn't a strict kind of SEC in accordance with projection. It was literally
Mm.
just this is what, and so they'll obviously will have put a few extra mil on that. And again, I do want to, I wanted to just say really quickly, like to preface, I don't know how to interpret financials really, but I do find it really interesting. I said this to you before. Not sure if we were rolling, but
Mm-hmm.
like how often do you see the reverse where an esports company like comes out, the financials are surprising, but they're surprising in a good way. It's like, oh, they're making loads more money than people thought they would be. Like I feel like you never see that.
I
Yeah.
haven't yet.
No.
I was having a little friendly conversation with the CEO of GameSquare, which owns like Complexity and Reciprocity and stuff, right? Just after their 2021 financials came out, he messaged me in a very friendly way, I'm sure, on LinkedIn, basically like saying I left things out on purpose, but then in the article they were actually there. He just obviously
Mm.
didn't read the article, didn't like the title of it, which I led with the fact that they'd lost however much money because I'm smart. Um, and that's how you do things. And no wonder traffic's growing at Hitmarker because it's financial season, baby, and everyone's posting that shit. But yeah, he effectively said like I don't like the negative like clickbait headlines. I said there's not one part of it that's clickbait besides the fact it makes you want to click it to see what's going on, but everything is factual in the title.
Mm.
And I said I would actually format this the same way if a company was making profit as well, but no one's making a fucking profit, so I can't, and I have no proof at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point,
And
isn't
then he
it?
ended
I
up
think you
inviting me to
would.
go for drinks if I'm ever in LA or Dallas, I think it was.
Oh
He
yeah.
came and accusing
Are you
me. I
bringing
just said
me?
like,
You
make some
bringing me?
money, mate, and then I'll nice you with a title. And then he was like, yeah, come for drinks. So I don't
Can
know
I
if that
tag? Can I
means,
tag along for the drinks?
of course, mate, of course, yeah, I'm gonna go 2020 never. I think so. Should be nice because I don't know if he means it in a friendly way or like he wants to like try and pay me off or punch me up. I don't know what it is, but he didn't like. He didn't like that I got to it, and I framed it the way I did. Instead
Mm.
of the title saying revenues were up, it said they made a loss because I wanted to include like the final conclusive state on the company, and that's typically the best way to do things. Are you making money or
Mm.
not? Right,
Mm.
and yeah, so I
Yeah.
think I've covered probably 10 um like reports on financial performance in the past 2-3
Mm-hmm.
months, and all of them have been losses, and a lot of them dramatic losses as well. Like rivalry, big loss, but like some good signs there at Esports Betting
Mm-hmm.
Company. But outside of that, it doesn't look great, mate. All the
Yeah.
organizations pissing money away, overactive media, FaZe down for 2021 like 37 mil
Mm.
effectively.
I do wish that.
Complexity, all of them. Like so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the point where I can write a headline that says blah blah organization make 50 mil in profit for 2022 or something. I would love to
Mm.
do that.
Yeah. I was just thinking while you were talking, I wish that we could see the amount that kind of angel investors and funds had actually put into all these companies, because I think that'd be really interesting. So, like, FaZe have lost 37 mil. From their perspective, they might be seeing this like, yeah, that's fine, because in the last 10 years, we've had athletes and companies and hedge funds and stuff invest 250 mil. Like, I don't know if it'll be that much, but to them, that loss might not mean anything at all because they've got this massive just reserve of money. So they've got years to figure it out.
I guess so, but it also depends on how much they're giving away for that money in return as well. Because, like, especially in the
terms of
early
equity,
days, yeah, like, because that's how the valuations come about, right? Like, you give away 25% at however much, then it equals this. It's I do wonder, and we have that information for some, I guess, in terms of how much they've received. I think, like, Rect Global, for example, were pretty vocal about, like, Taylor Fritz has joined, Vic Star's joined us, creators and stuff. And I spoke to the CEO, and I don't know if I should say this, so I shouldn't, but, like, each of them have submitted quite a bit of money into the company. Like, it's not just like, here's 1K, you're now an ambassador type thing. It's like, I'm now an ambassador, sorry. It's more like, here's 6-7 figures. Now I am an actual co-owner in the company and stuff, right? And now they're selling for, what is it, 470 mil or 450 mil or something like that to some metaverse company, which it fucking writes itself on that front. But going back to the FaZe thing a little bit, leaning on ESI's article with an unknown author, it just says ESI. So while they were their revenue grew by 42% year on year, but their net losses also grew by 28%. And the losses part concerns me there a lot. Snoop Dogg being on the board when the merger goes through, if it does, isn't going to save the fucking company, I can tell you that much. And it says like the adjusted figure is lower than what was projected. It says the results confirm this discrepancy was driven by increased costs. So that's just like bringing in more people, probably hiring more talent and stuff. But, like, I wanted to touch on that a little bit like in the old days of Optic and FaZe before, I guess, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago and before that, if you joined one of those two teams, like either of them, it was special. It was like prestigious. You know what I mean? It was like, oh my God, I'm part of FaZe. Like, this is a very small roster. Fucking hell, I'm like one of the top people in my industry. Nowadays, they're just doing competitions to see who wants to join, and literally a no-name can join, which is fine. I like it, but, like, I think at this point, being a part of FaZe is no longer the, like, badge of honor that it used to be. Which I don't know if that's just a sign of expansion. It's like, oh, they've expanded to the point where, like, it's not just a select few. There's a whole crew of these people. But, like, to me, like, they've grown, and they grow more and more towards the lifestyle brand stuff and are less prominent in the esportsy bit, which, look, we're seeing how these esports dogs are performing. That makes sense. But how are you monetizing the lifestyle stuff, which is such a wishy-washy term within itself? If you're doing it through partnerships with DC Comics, where, honestly, I've seen some of the panels. I even tweeted one out the other day. It's the fucking worst shit I've ever seen. The most cringe, on-brand FaZe Clan stuff I've ever seen, aimed at -4-year-olds, because I don't know any living person who could enjoy it. I don't know if it's those kind of partnerships that are going to drive them to the promised land of profitability, which I think it says actually in the S4 filing. Were they aiming for it for like 2023 or something? I think they said they were expecting... Here we go. So B. Riley, so the SPAC does not expect a positive EBITDA, so earnings before interest, blah, 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 until 2023, and FaZe outperform revenue projections. So for me, B. Riley are expecting them to get to a point where they're quite healthy, like next year.
Yeah.
How are you going to turn the ship around that quickly?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they're going to do it.
I'm pretty sure it's like, let me just check, but yeah, by the end of 2023, they're basically expecting them to look much better.
But, like, the deal has to be done by February 2023, if I remember correctly. Because if not, because of the kind of company it is, they would have to liquidate and return all of the money they've raised to their shareholders, right? And I'm sure they've gotten quite a lot since the FaZe announcement. If they're saying it's a $1 billion thing and they're already on the Nasdaq, like, how many people are getting in early, ready for FaZe to jump aboard? Oh my God, we've got Snoop Dogg here, and Nick Merckx is banging it out, and all this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know how they're supposed to turn things around, but I guess that means they've got huge plans in place for, like, the rest of this year and moving into 2023 with the funds that they can get from B. Riley if they're expecting everything to, like, close quite soon.
Do you have any idea, like, how many times that? So obviously they fell very short by like 10 mil, basically $10 million
Hmm.
essentially, or just almost. Like, how often does this happen in traditional industries? Do we have any read on that? Because I'm not familiar with this really happening.
Oh,
And
like
like,
like
surely,
almost a failed SPAC.
yeah, and like, surely that looks awful to potential investors and to the people that have invested, that
Mm.
they can't even get a project, or that they get a projection so wrong. Surely that looks awful as well. So maybe some will start getting itchy feet and want to get out of there potentially.
I'm well. Projections are projections for a reason, and like especially during the COVID times, I'm
Mm,
sure many companies faced similar kind of dilemmas where
yeah.
going into 2020 they projected however much they were going to make, and that was probably predicated on some in-person elements and actually having staff available in the office and working and not just sleeping on the settee instead of being on the laptop. You know, not saying that was me, by the way, when COVID hit, but yeah, so I imagine it hit quite a lot then. I don't. I wish I had like a statistic, and if I was well
Mm,
researched prior to recording this, I'd maybe try and find one. But alas, like full time job does not allow it all the time. Um, you know, and
preach.
the fact we just had a 3 day weekend, and I took full advantage of
Yeah,
that
preach as well.
to the highest degree. I don't know, but it has to be the case where people fail to meet projections, right? It's not as I don't
Yeah.
imagine every business is just like banging it out and just
No.
working out like the number of failed businesses versus ones that reach like $1 billion like unicorn status will be fucking ridiculous, right? I
Mm,
imagine it'll be 80s or
yeah.
90s,
Hmm.
or like they sell it off before they ever reach it, and then some
Yeah.
corporation takes over. So I can't imagine it's uncommon, but like it's a problem we've got in esports, but it's getting better where we don't have access to a lot of financials, and there's not really any journalists that are banging them out and getting them out into the public, right?
Mm,
So
yeah. Yeah.
we only have a small amount of data to work off of and small amount of information to work
Yeah.
off of. So everything that comes out is new. It's like, oh shit, FaZe is doing this. Okay, we didn't know that, and they're the biggest
Mm,
we've got with 350 million combined audience apparently.
yeah.
Who I don't know how the fuck they're monetizing them. It doesn't sound like they are really,
No, it doesn't sound like they are
or
at
they are
all.
for like
No.
3p per per audience member or
Mm,
some shit, you know. Um, yeah, so everything that comes out is really novel still, and we're still building a better picture. I find of like the accuracy of the industry state and where
mm,
like these big organizations are.
yeah.
Because you
And
look at the 400 odd mil acquisition, sorry mate, from Rec Global, and that paints a really good picture. It's like, oh shit, they're doing bits. They've like
mm,
successfully exited, but then it's a stock deal, so they're getting stock in Infinite Reality. I think the company is above them, and they have to wait for a liquidity moment again to cash out, which this would have been it. So I
mm,
don't know how much they will actually get when it comes to the time where the founders of Rec Global, behind like Rogue and London Royal Ravens, can actually bounce and make some dosh. You
yeah.
know, I mean, even that is kind of tarred a bit. It's like, oh, it's not quite great.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You could say, like, the financials that we do have access to, like, they're all just, I don't know. Like, you could make the argument that all these esports companies are just, they're all in growth mode because they're all so young.
For sure.
So that's why they're all losing money. I mean, that is the explanation on some level.
Hmm.
Um, and this is the thing again. I want to say, like, I'm hold my hands up. I'm definitely not the type of person that can easily go into a bloody financial report and know exactly what's going on and able to analyze a company's financials like that. So that's a skill in itself, and like it's difficult.
How to talk finance.
That's
I have
about
to go through
finance.
this quite a lot to remind myself. I've not worked in business like that, so me too, mate.
No,
I'm not the perfect guy for it. I just get
yeah,
to the point where I can understand what I need to understand,
but
and that's it. You know.
yeah, but I just think again, like I'm not pessimistic about esports and about gaming as a space generally. Like I love it, and I think it's just got so much going for it, but I don't know. Just where there's smoke, there's fire. I feel like the only news we ever hear about financials are like negative, and maybe that's like you said because journalists aren't really covering it properly necessarily, or not many of them. There are a
Hmm.
few. Um, is that why, or is it that you know they're just not very much to look at? And like you see the forecasts at Newzoo every year, they're starting to slow down. They've reeled some of that in, and just from a bird's eye view, it just seems as though there's not that much cause for optimism at the minute. But
No, no.
I think
I would probably put money on the esports organizations that will be I don't know, the Man Uniteds of the future, like the big sports clubs. Some of them haven't been founded yet, and some of the
Interesting.
big
Yeah,
ones we've got now
probably.
won't see the light of day in that form. Whether it's a merger with another organization, I think we're still going to see some more of that.
Yeah, there's too
Because
many of
there's a
them.
lot of talent spread thin as well, and yeah, there's a lot of people, a lot of companies vying for these fan bases, and
Yeah,
it's going to be a tough one. So where we saw
yeah.
like Reciprocity shut its doors and then got acquired by Game Square, and then like kind of it still owns like some franchise rights. I think like Rainbow Seven in the Latin
Oh
League of
yeah,
Legends
yeah.
arena, and like a Crossfire franchise with LGD. I think it may be.
Right.
Um,
I don't
Besides that,
know.
like they got rolled in, and like their resources and I guess some of their talent and stuff would have stayed within Game Square, who then acquired Complexity. So not a direct kind of merger there, but it's still consolidation of the industry, and I'm like, that makes sense to me. I definitely see that being the case. But we saw how quickly like Loud and like Koi as well, like two Brazilian organizations, like came out of absolutely nowhere. Loud have done so more on the influencer side, but like, look, they're
Yeah,
competing. I think they just reached like finals of VCT Masters against Optic, right? So they are
yeah,
competing
yeah,
as well,
yeah.
and Koi as well. Like you get a superstar like eBay, and then there's PK with him, right? I think those two like bought a slot from Astralis in the Superliga in Spain,
Right.
and they're smashing it. Like they got like 300,000 followers in like a month or two. Like it's insane, mate. And then like Carman Corp in France as well. Like I have faith. Like
Yeah.
some of these organizations will reach the promised land when esports finally gets to a point. Or I guess like its promise materializes. But I also think some of them won't as well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No,
Maybe
some
the
of them
envy and
won't.
optic stuff is a sign of times to come.
Yeah, I think so. I think there are just more orgs than there are fans, to be honest, and more orgs than there are
Yeah.
money as well. That which is especially important, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, you'll see. We're still in like a stage where it's a bit of a free for all. You can pick a few that you're pretty confident will stick around. Like FaZe will, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Optic will. G2 will. There are some in Asia that definitely will. Like you were just saying, Loud is smashing it. So you know, and I think just as far as the FaZe stuff, just the financials, like what would you say? Just in conclusion, basically, it doesn't. We'll keep an eye on it. Interesting to keep an eye on for the next like year, but doesn't look great.
No, not at all, and yeah, just to round things out, I guess like the S4 filing also said that it expects the 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025 financial forecasts and projections to differ from what was estimated prior. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's probably turned them
Makes
all a bit
sense.
more conservatively, and said,
Yeah, I'm sure.
"Oh,
Yeah,
we're gonna make $1 billion in revenue in 2025. Let's turn that down to maybe $500 million."
yeah.
I imagine just small changes like that. And it attributed
Sweet.
like increases in costs and stuff, but also like current market trends, which is like, who the fuck knows what that actually means.
Mm-hmm.
Costs of revenue to be higher than what they projected initially, an increase in general and admin expenses upon what was projected,
Yeah.
and lower revenues of at least 20% than projected as well. So, like, yeah, just massive course correction coming there. I think maybe
Mm-hmm.
they caught a whiff of their own bullshit a little bit at FaZe, and were like, shit, we're doing this thing, like everything's going perfectly, and then they realize like, oh no, esports still isn't there yet. The fact that there are organizations that are valued like 3, 4, 5 times what a Premier League football club is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did Southampton sell for?
I can't remember when was that. It was recently.
Yeah, yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
it? Yeah. Have a look.
Acquisition, let's see. 100 mil.
What?
So Southampton Football Club
Are you
cost
serious?
100 mil.
That is a bargain.
And FaZe are saying that they were going to be valued at a bill. Rect Global's getting acquired for 470 mil. You look at the Forbes stuff, which we haven't had
Wow.
one for 2022, interestingly, but they were saying like TSM's 400 odd mil and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
this stuff, right? So the
yeah.
fact that
Totally.
we're apparently an industry that has teams that are worth more than teams that own stadiums and have actual paying fans with season tickets and will go to the
Mm.
ground and buy a grimy pucker pie and all this
Yeah.
kind of shit, and buy all the jerseys every year and all this kind of shit. It doesn't fly with me whatsoever.
No,
Maybe we've got a couple based on the audience they command online, but like we're still not monetizing that audience well at all.
no,
So
no.
we're in a very weird spot. I
It
think
is.
that
It's
the
weird, isn't
FaZe
it?
stuff is just I don't know. I think it's a sign of the times, to be honest with you. Like we're having to calm down on all of the real hopeful bullshit where we're saying
Yeah.
we're almost there. We're going to go big now. The pandemic's really accelerated our growth because like we can see through all of that stuff now, and
Mhm.
even our diamond, our FaZe Clan in the industry is not
Yeah.
quite up to scratch with
Exactly.
where they said we were. But the one thing I want to say is the $1 billion valuation, whether they even reach it now, that's a narrative that will stand the test of time, and they will be called $1 billion org, even if it's revised and it's 700 mil or 500 mil or whatever.
Mm.
It's like if there's a headline that comes out saying Adam Fitch like kicks cats, that'll go huge, and then later there'll be a rebuttal saying no, here's actually evidence he didn't kick the cat. Everyone will still call me a cat kicker. You know what I mean? And that'll be the same here. Like it'll work in their favor. Like they're the first $1 billion esports org. Like it's perfect for a BBC or mainstream American media to use that. It seems flashy, you know. So again, like they'll actually benefit from that after the fact, even after this stuff, because this won't travel anywhere near as much as the announcement that they made before about becoming publicly traded.
No, and I do think it's interesting what you said a second ago about like FaZe Clan is the darling of the industry, and even that, like the sentiments have got to start cooling down. I don't know. It's just interesting, isn't it? You know, all the investment that's come in, and it's just everything seems to be like, right, we need to chill out now. We need to just make sure we're being realistic. And it's just interesting to see it unfold.
Well, like, when was the last time you saw an organization announce a big raise? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it really has, yeah.
And also, we're an industry that celebrates people raising money and giving away parts of their company instead of making a profit.
Mm-hmm.
Like 100 Thieves, like we've raised 50 mil, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, congrats, fucking hell, let's go!" I'm like, wait, like, yeah, but how much money have they fucking burnt up to this point?
Yeah, no, they are burning money, but you know they are technically startups, a lot of them, and you know,
yes, exactly.
they're in growth mode, so they do need that money. But like, yeah, I agree with you. It's strange that I hadn't really considered it, but you don't see that much, do you? That
no, because
there was a point, and you know they're trying. You know they're trying. Like they're going to be in.
There was a point where like every month it was like Fnatic raises 20 mil, G2 raises 10 mil from the Nets owner to expanding to North America. 100 Thieves have got FaZe got Drake and Scooter Braun and blah 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 blah. It was going off. Cloud9 with 50 mil, I think it was, and all this shit, and you barely see any of it anymore. Like Loud just raised 9 million, but that was for a sister company who like creating a like decentralized organization where they're looking to get like Brazilian gamers into blockchain gaming. So the last esports race was actually for blockchain gaming, and I actually saw all the fans just going like crazy positive about it, being crazy positive about it, which makes a change. But they've just got that kind of fan base where like Loud could put out that they're going to assassinate like Boris Johnson, and well, actually, I'd probably celebrate that as well. Allegedly, allegedly. But you know what I mean? They could like say we're going to kill Fat Ronaldo, and everyone would be like, "Yeah, that's fucking sick, mate. Go do that shit." You know what I mean? Like a beloved person. So yeah, they're in their kind of their own little world over there, and I guess it's probably the same in like China and a bit of South Korea as well. But basically, I think what we're saying is phase down. That's putting down. Yeah. So
at least for now, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yes,
but it doesn't look that healthy, does it? Clearly,
no. Do you think I've been too negative?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I actually don't. I messaged someone, like I said, I wanted to ask someone that really does know what they're on about. So I messaged someone, and they were basically, I asked them, is it just a kind of, is it incompetence, or is it they were lying, like they actually lied about stuff? And they basically said it's hard to tell, but it doesn't look good.
Why not both?
Well, yeah, exactly. Maybe it was, or maybe it was, maybe it was just an honest mistake. In which case, I guess that's incompetence in a way. So,
and it's very on brand with FaZe, considering they've still got Banks there, who is a. I'm not going to say that last bit. He's prone to making mistakes. I'm going to say, But anyway,
Unreal.
everyone go and phase that like button and subscribe button. Get us to 100 subscribers so we can get a custom URL, and I'll change it to phase down.
Right,
Right, thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers.
Nice one.